Number 10 completely acknowledges that the golden era of British-Chinese relations, when Britain was comfortable having China investing in the infrastructure, digital infrastructure and energy infrastructure inside Britain, that is long gone and not coming back. But Keir Starmer's very clear he doesn't want to move to a new era of outright hostility. He wants to find some sort of middle way to the Middle Kingdom. As he arrived at Beijing airport, Keir Starmer said to the minister waiting to greet him that this was an historic moment. Well, it might not be quite that, but it has been a long time coming. Just how wowed the British public will be by the agreements that are unveiled when he meets President Xi tomorrow, we'll have to wait and see. But he will hope that what the British public will see is that this is all about the economy, trying wherever you can to pull any lever that might just help growth. In this case, exports and investment. He's brought a delegation of business people with him that's heavy on finance, the arts, culture, sports. It does have some manufacturing in it as well. He knows that any deals negotiated here can sometimes be pretty slow coming to fruition. Here's how he launched this mission.
They say that 8 days is a long time in politics. Try 8 years, because it's 8 years since a British Prime Minister stepped on Chinese soil. And so on this delegation, you're making history. You're part of the change that we're bringing about. And that's consistent with everything that we've done in government, particularly internationally, because we are resolute about being outward-looking, about taking opportunities, building relationships, having confidence globally, and always being absolutely focused on our national interest. And it is in our national interest to engage with China.
The looming shadow over everything in international affairs, as ever, is Donald Trump. He's recently fallen out with Britain over Greenland, over Diego Garcia. And Keir Starmer's clearly hoping that Diego Garcia goes the same way as Greenland and sort of deflates again as a matter of major concern and dispute. Here, though, one of his concerns will be how Donald Trump has visited retribution on Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, for coming out here only a short while ago and negotiating a trade deal. Keir Starmer's not doing that, but he won't want to do anything that provokes the angry bear in the White House.
Gary Gibbon there. Well, the Chinese artist and activist Ai Weiwei recently went back to Beijing after staying away for 10 years. He described it as a personal visit rather than a political one, a chance to spend time with his teenage son and his 93-year-old mother. Now he's in London to talk about his new book, On Censorship, and he came into our studio this afternoon. Sunflower seeds, an ocean 100 million strong, reflecting the relationship between the individual and the masses. And so for Ai Weiwei, artist and dissident, whose outspoken criticism of his home country China has seen him cast out after a near 30-year campaign of surveillance against him. His early writing suppressed, his posts online censored, and discussion of his work shut down, like this installation, school backpacks memorializing the names of thousands of children killed in an earthquake. Police intimidation turned into violence. In 2009, he needed emergency brain surgery following a beating by police that he says was intended as a warning. In 2011, Ai was detained by Chinese authorities and disappeared for 81 days. But the art continued, art in spite of the risks. Now based in Europe, Ai Weiwei is reckoning with one of the enduring constants of his life, and he says, in ours, censorship. Ai Weiwei, it's really good to see you again. I want to start with a couple of personal questions. You yourself, of course, were famously subject to censorship, but also your father, a poet. So censorship or being censored runs in your family.
My father is a poet. Then after the new nation born, he is being exiled for 20 years.
That must have hurt.
I can imagine, he is in the highest position as a writer. And then he ended up cleaning the public toilet and being insulted and being accused as anti-revolution.
Mm-hmm. You've recently been back to China, having not been there for 10 years. China has become very, very good, not just at censorship, but also surveillance, keeping an eye on its population.
China has been more sophisticated in this kind of censorship, but not only China. In the West, same.
Sure.
Because we have AI, we have satellite. Everything will be can be watched by authority everywhere, and not just in China, but in the West, same.
Is censorship in China driven by power, and is censorship in places like America or the UK driven by corporate greed?
Censorship in China really come from some kind of ideology. They're trying to maintain the stability of the state power. But censorship in the West has really come from the corporative interests, and those interests also reflects some kind of capitalism ideology. So it's also untouchable.
But in this country, I can still say what I like on Twitter or X. I can write to the newspapers. I can stand on Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park and shout my mouth off about the government, and I probably won't end up in jail. That is not the case in China.
It's different. In China, maybe a little voice can make you vulnerable, but here you make a lot of voice, but nobody care. So your voice is not relevant.
A few years ago, it was still fashionable to talk about, and I think last time we met, we had this conversation, autocracy versus democracy. China in one corner, America in the other. Is that a discussion that is still taking place?
I think no longer you can distinguish who's a democracy and who's dictators or it's not. There's no clear line anymore.
Do you think that we are heading for a civilizational confrontation between China and America over something like Taiwan?
I don't think so anymore, because I think I cannot tell which one is more civilized. There's no business for U.S. to be part of that kind of argument between China and Taiwan, and they will solve the problem by themselves.
It sounds like you've made your peace with the Chinese government. Is that the case?
Well, I cannot make peace with any government, and I don't think they even would accept my proposal, because they would all know I'm not trustful. Because I'm an individual. I have my own individual opinion. I'm not on any side, or I will not on any side.
Ai Weiwei, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.